I think we're ready to call the meeting of the Whitestown Economic Improvement Board to order. Do a roll call real quick.
I'll run it. Todd Barker, present. Shree. John Cummings.
Present.
And for whatever,
Pete
Pete Anderson, yes, just left me.
Okay.
And Bobby is
He's absent.
absent today. So we do have 4 or 5 members.
Okay, so it looks like we have a quorum.
Yes.
Go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from January 14th, 2025. Give everybody a chance to take a quick look. Entertain motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 14, 2025.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approval of the minutes of January 14th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is to see if any members of the public request to speak on topics not related to an agenda item. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is our presentations. It looks like we don't have any for this particular meeting. Item 5, unfinished business. First item is the Whitestown Connector route options.
Yeah.
Hello, how are you guys?
Doing great.
Good, thanks.
It's Amanda Meyer from CERTA, just for the record. You should have a presentation in front of you. And as you know, we've been working with TransPro, as well as our friend Phil over here, to make some positive changes for you guys in hopes to increase ridership even more. And so, as you recall, our director and TransPro, we drove the route, we conducted a whole study on the stops and what that ridership looks like and how we could potentially make some changes. And so you can see on that technically 3rd page, it shows you what that average daily ridership looks like. And that was with Indigo Route 37 coming to Traders Point. And then if you keep going, it talks a little bit more about the existing service that has 15 stops with a cycle time of 53 minutes. And you can see as well what we were proposing with the semi-redesign. So we did test this already with Go Express. We've been in communication with Todd and how this has come along. And so with what we're proposing here and what we are suggesting to move forward with would be 12 stops versus the 15. This is taking into account that ridership that you saw earlier in the presentation and removing some of the stops that are underutilized and having some additional stops with, for example, the feedback that we received from Sheehan, some feedback we received from your team, and making sure that we have some stops in these places. It would remove the stops here at the shops at Whitestown and Meyer because those are very underutilized, and then remove a couple other lower ridership stops such as Park 130 and Anson Acres. So that image there does show you the proposed new route. We do have the schedule created, we have the new map created, and that is something that we are proposing that we move forward with this. And the other part of that on that last slide is changing the connection point to 38th Street versus Traders Point. This would allow us to have more hits at the ball because there are 2 Indigo buses that are coming. to that 38th Street spot versus Traders Point where there's only one bus coming. These buses are also 30-minute frequency, and if you think about the amount of people that could walk there based on the area that is, there's also a shelter at that location, so we're super excited about that as well. And that shows you a bit of the zip code analysis there that TransPro put together for us to show you the data, the census data. We, as a team, our director, as well as working with Philip here, we have been talking about how it makes sense based on the time frame it would be to communicate to the public, the time frame it would take to move the stops, that we would love to implement this beginning June 2nd. And so that gives us time to put a public announcement out there next week in the Indianapolis Star. It allows us to have a public meeting mid-May. We were tentatively scheduling that for May 13th that we would hold at our downtown office. We have a conference center that would welcome anyone to come. We thought about, does it make sense to do a public meeting in Whitestown? Well, the majority of people that would utilize this are coming from Marion County, so they would be able to use Indigo or whatever transportation of their preference to come to our location on site to have that public meeting, and we'd also make that virtual for anyone that couldn't come on site. Additionally, I've spoken to Todd about us making sure there's communication on the buses themselves, so people will learn that. We'll have a survey on the bus itself that we could learn more about where they're coming from as well as what employer they're going to, so we have more of that data available for your team. And of course, social media marketing, having our PR team put that out there in whatever way we need to make sure that that information is on our website, on our social media platforms. Am I missing anything with that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He reminded me that this July would be the 10-year anniversary of the Whitestown Connector starting. So it's exciting to consider these. 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking it was 19, but
Philip Roth, American Structure Point. I'm a vendor contractor with CERTA for their mobility management program. Yeah, I actually worked for CERTA in Amanda's position. My first day with the agency was July 1st, 2015, and that's the day that Whitestown Connector started. So.
all right. Okay, yeah. All right, well, exciting.
So we, along with TransPro and Philip and our team, in talking to Todd, we think that this is going to be an exciting time to continue to find ways to increase ridership. Wanted to open up to any questions that you might have or any concerns.
Can I just add a couple quick comments?
Yeah, sure.
Just a couple quick comments. When the service started 10 years ago with the Traders Point connection, there were two bus routes at the time that connected into it. The 37, which is still running, and the Route 86 crosstown, which went across 86 and 82nd Street, which was canceled by Indigo 2 or 3 years ago. So one of the challenges is now that there's only one route connecting to Traders Point, and it takes about 45, 50 minutes for an Indigo bus to get from the downtown transit center up to that connection point. So having a connection point at the Lafayette Square area made sense, but that introduces a little bit of additional travel time, and that meant that we had to find some ways to consolidate some time elsewhere on the route. So that was kind of the overall motivation for the restructuring.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, they had communicated with me in terms of looking at kind of the best alternatives. I think there was two others as well that
There are 3 total options.
that we initially looked at, and this seemed to kind of give the best coverage, shortest amount of time to the highest kind of points, is why we kind of said, yes, let's look at and study this particular particular alternative throughout that, so.
Any questions from anybody?
I don't have any. It looks like not a lot of cons to the 38th and Lafayette Road. Thanks for putting this all together because it really helps
Yeah,
illustrate
yeah, having that visual.
the change and the advantages and disadvantages is helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was gonna say, the one question that I will have that I didn't think about when we were looking at this before, is kind of looking at the end of the alternative route, right, before they would jump back on the new 131, 132. Yeah, 132, or no, 131, yeah, whatever the new interchange. I forget the exit number off the top of my head.
It's 550.
Yeah, at 550 there. What kind of time, I guess, is it at each stop that they make, right? So just thinking about kind of that Park 130 area, right? I know we had limited ridership there, but it almost seems like right before they stop to get back on the interstate, what would looking at adding a stop there essentially to be able to,
At that four-way stop?
yeah, it may be a little bit of work or a little walk for folks, but, you know,
Do you recall? 'Cause that was something that we looked at also. Do you
Okay.
remember what we came up with that?
Not off the top. No. I think the idea was that we can continue to make minor adjustments to the route based on our understanding of the travel time. The overall goal is to keep the travel time down to about 50 minutes from the new stop at Lafayette Square and back for all of the runs throughout the day. So while we were able to test that travel time, it's not until we get out there and actually start implementing it that we know how close to the mark we are. And then we'll have, I think, some room to consider what additional stops we might be able to add on. The overall, the reason that we wanted to talk to you this time was because this is a rather major restructuring of the route, actually traveling which roads we selected for the route. Adding stops is something, or alternately eliminating stops with no riders is something that we can entertain at a later time. I do agree with Amanda. We did have some kind of conversation about the four-way stop there. I can't remember specifically.
It's a little fuzzy now. It's been a while since
Sure.
we had that, but I do recall it was something that we looked at, but
Yeah,
we
and
can
it's,
revisit it.
I guess I just would have some concern, and I think I mentioned this as we were looking at the alternatives, right? Eliminating, stuff for Park 130 down there altogether, that, yes, if as we kind of move this along, if it makes sense to add something there, before they jump back on the interstate.
Well, and if you look at the existing ridership on that third slide, it does show that as the lowest daily ridership on average.
Correct, yes.
If there's further development down at that stop, that might merit a
Right, there's potential, a lot of development, yes, in that area, so
The
I
challenge,
don't want to just discount it altogether.
the challenge with serving that stop is, do you turn the vehicle around to go back up to 550 South Interchange and then get on a quicker interstate run? Do you waste time with the turnaround, or do you burn the time going down Indianapolis Boulevard to the first interchange?
You'd be better off to turn around and go back to, my thought is to have the stop essentially before the interchange, so that it's, stop and then they could go.
Yeah.
It's not ideal for 130, right, but at least it's
Yeah.
still closer.
Or alternately, maybe there's, pedestrian infrastructure and lighting that we could talk about
Right.
implementing to allow people to connect up to 550 South.
Yeah.
To walk the distance, so.
Yeah, my guess is
variety
there's
of
probably a bit of a safety issue there because there's not really sidewalks or anything to walk on, and that's busy road. So you'd have to go down to Park 130 and turn around and come back, as opposed to just letting them off at the
Maybe, yeah.
550 four-way
Yeah.
stop or something.
Yeah.
But that
Essentially,
is the
that's-
direction of development. I think as long as there's a
Correct.
recognition that this may need to be readdressed as that matures and comes out, and I'm just, when I was looking at it, I saw there was a lot more stops on the east side of the interstate than there were on the west side, and it seemed like there was loss of stops on the west side, where there's actually probably more development going on today than on the east side.
Right.
So as long as, I think we look at it again at some point.
Yeah,
maybe
this
that
is
makes
not,
sense. Yeah.
this is all going to be adjusted as we get more information in from actual implementation.
And I totally agree. You got to get off at 550. I mean, that's the interchange to use probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine eliminating the Whitestown Parkway exit will
Save a bunch of time.
save time, yeah.
What are the time frames that these buses will be running? Like, what is it, first bus and the last bus?
Yeah, so it's going to be very similar to the schedule that we have now. Let me see, I took a screenshot of it, so I'd have it ready for us. So same thing where our express bus starts at 5:50 in the morning downtown. It will be this, or sorry, 5:10 in the morning. It will be the same as that, and then it will run hourly. And one thing we decided on is keeping it on the hour. So, for example, it'll start that first route at 5:10 in the morning, and then every time after that would be being at 38th Street at 7 a.m. and then 8 a.m., 9 a.m. It takes its lunch break as it does, just as it does now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 p.m. So it's very comparable to what we have now and makes it easy for a rider to know it's going to be back on the hour.
So what time again would it leave from 38th Street?
The very first time it leaves is at 5:25 a.m. is the time frame that it takes from going from the downtown transit center and gets there at 5:25 in the morning. And then after that, it hits the hour, the 7 a.m.
Gotcha.
and then repeats.
During the day, is this, most of the ridership is first thing and
We do have the most riders in those first couple of hours of the route. And then there are times throughout the day that it does increase up again, but primarily the first run for those folks that are starting work in the morning. And then also want to remind you that once we roll this out, we're timing it so that our PR team, JTPR, that we have our contract with, we have that $50,000 of marketing that was already agreed upon. So we've talked to her to make sure that if we do launch it this time, that's a good time frame for her to help, as we want to utilize that to increase ridership as well. Any additional questions for now?
Not me.
entertain a motion to approve the redesign.
I move to approve the alternative design option as presented today.
A second?
All in favor of the Whitestown Connector redesign, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want me to provide an update right now with the CERTA report? Coming back to that.
That's up to,
I'm sorry.
essentially, she'll be doing the new business thing too. So do you want to do that now, or do you want to move through the,
Why don't we finish the unfinished business?
Okay.
and come back?
Sounds
If
good.
that's okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, district boundary expansion process and timing.
Yeah.
Sort of who's reporting on that?
I am.
Okay, all
Yep,
right.
yep, that's,
Todd Barker to report on that.
yeah. So I actually have a meeting scheduled this Friday with Abby, and I forget Abby's last name, that was here. She's in, she's working through some of the legislative session stuff, so she was a little tied up. So, but we do have a meeting scheduled this Friday to kind of talk about those next steps. So I'll report back from that meeting after Friday when I'll send out kind of a summary to the board, and we'll definitely keep this on for the next time too. Yes.
All right, then, last item of business is ridership employment locations.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we talked about, and so Amanda had to mention they're going to be doing surveys as a part of the announcement of the change in the route. So that's where they're going to attempt to collect that data. So right now they've got essentially the zip code data for where people live, but doesn't necessarily know where they work. So they're going to ask that as a part of that survey piece. So we'll have that into the future. So.
Does that include surveying just generally the businesses up here to see?
So it's actually the riders themselves. Yeah, so they're gonna actually ride the buses to kind of help spread that word about the change and essentially do those essential interview as a part of that.
Okay.
Yep.
As the building owners, landlords sign up new companies for the buildings, what is the process, or what should be the process so that CERTA and this board can say, yep, Pete just signed a lease to fill this building. Here's the contact.
Yeah.
Let's make a connection.
So Amanda may have to help me out on that, but essentially that's part of CERTA's push out, right? They've worked to meet with those, but there's probably, yes, a better connection we can make in terms of.
Just so those new companies can have that information to pass on to their new employees, who then can be, as opposed to just depending on the riders, because we just want to make sure they know about it and can become a rider.
Right, yes. So we're always seeking employers that we're not connected with, and sometimes, I think I've mentioned before, it's a matter of finding that right contact. So that is, if somehow we want to create a process where when you guys start a relationship with a new landowner or someone takes possession of a building or something of that sort, that you want to get them in contact with us, that is definitely what we're here for, is we'd be willing to have a meeting with them, go over CERTA's programs, especially the Workforce Connector, as they're a part of this area and connecting with our new employees. We're constantly making, contacts and creating relationships, but sometimes it's that barrier. They think at times that we're there to sell something, and it's hard for them to understand, no, we're a free resource, so we want to help you, or we're here to help each other out. And so sometimes it's just a matter of us partnering and getting that in communication about those new ones.
So there may be, actually kind of gives me two thoughts potentially on how the town can help partner that, right? Maybe we get a packet of info from CERTA that we include, whether when we start going through, whether it's an incentive process or even a plan commission review process, right, that gets distributed. But a lot of times that's more the development team side of things. But then also, I know when our PR side does a lot of times we'll do ribbon cuttings, for new businesses that maybe we include, and we usually have a welcome to Whitestown gift bag, right? Maybe we could include some of that.
Well, and we would love,
info in there
if it
too.
makes sense, to be a part of those too, just to shake their hand and say, welcome, let us know if you need anything.
And maybe if it's an existing building and we sign a lease, and then the tenant improvement and the permitting process for improvements means, look, there's a new tenant. If it could be kind of part of that process too, because then you're not dependent on a new building coming out of the ground, but it's filling up an existing building. And if there was just a kind of a default way of making sure that there's a connection.
I would say, to me, the utility bill's the way to go. That's usually paid by the tenant.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to track down landlords. You don't have to track down, are the landlords communicating? The landlords change, these buildings change ownership. It's going to be very hard to keep track of all the tenancies that way. I think the tenant is who you want to get to. and you could do it through the utility bill, which is probably paid or goes hopefully locally. And in there, you could put almost like a, post this in your break room.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a map of the route, and it says it's free, and, you know, then it gets right to the employee. And how hard is that? You know,
Yeah.
short of just walking over and knocking on every door, I would think that might be
Yeah,
an
that's a
easy
good
way.
idea. And if there's a,
Or some communication like that, Todd. I mean, I don't know what else there might be. You know, maybe if there are some other outreach things you do for employers here, that might be a way of, like, if they have a job fair,
Right.
you know, that would be a place to have CERTA present and pass out this kind of information. Because I don't think, you're not going to get any opposition from an employer putting this in there. They just got to know about it,
Right.
I would think.
right, I agree.
Yeah, so I can definitely work with our PR team in terms of the outreach pieces that they do more business-wise. And obviously, we'd have to target that right more towards the district boundary. That's right, we could send it to Myers and everybody else, and they're like, yeah, we want it. I'm like, well, you're not footing the bill.
That's right. I mean,
But-
it's going to be take a little bit of work to
Right.
create the district, create all the addresses within the district, and then mail to that group. But
Right.
the neat thing about it is it probably doesn't cost much. You're already sending them a bill anyway.
Right.
So just put the piece of paper in there, and it'll hit them so many times that chances are they're going to do something with it. You would think.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, the only challenge would be if that bill's going directly to some other state,
That's
right? And then they just take it and say, you know,
Yeah, they're going to.
what do we do with this? So maybe there needs to be multiple touch points, but the
Yeah.
utility bill is good because if the tenant changes over time, you just know the
Right.
tenant's gonna be paying those utilities directly, so.
yeah,
It'll work better though if it's going to a local office as opposed to a corporate.
sure.
I love the idea of a combination. Your idea with the utility bill, but then also, like you said, multiple touch points. If we can do a warm handoff, I mean, you guys have an advantage over other towns where, I mean, we go and talk to people all the time and say, well, they wish they had a workforce connector too. And so to be able to attract new business owners and landowners to say, we have, you know, multiple transportation resources for you and this great connector, and then doing a warm handoff and saying, hey, I want you to meet Amanda or whoever you decide is the best contact at CERTA in helping you with these resources for your employees.
Yeah, it's easy to reach the initial developer. I think the challenge is the initial developer sells the building, gets sold again and again and
yeah.
again. And then I think you're going to lose track of how do you
Right,
make sure you get a hold of them? You know,
That's a
a
good
tax
point.
bill, I mean, maybe, I suppose. But then that group might not be as motivated. It's almost like you got to get a hold of the HR director somehow,
Someone at the facility.
someone at the facility. That's right.
yeah, I mean, and we could, I mean, it's not impossible, right? I mean, we've got the ability to isolate all of the addresses within the district. And could even do, a mailer.
I mean,
it's
if they
a direct
have the
mail.
line item on their tax bill, stick it in their tax bill.
Well, we don't send the tax bill, though. It comes from the county.
From the county, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
so that doesn't help, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have a team who welcomes them when they do the ribbon cutting. I mean, it sounds like you said it could
Correct.
be part of their welcome packet and
As well.
of
yeah.
what resources they have and how to help them best establish themselves in the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, developers like us will use this service as a selling point before a company ever, signs on the dotted line. But it's good for us to have this info and say, look, everyone's labor and availability and transportation is always at the top of the list. So it'll be helpful to us too.
Awesome.
It's kind of the same problem with expanding the boundary, how do you find the right person?
Yeah,
How do you, it's going to be, it's hard, not an easy thing to do, so. Probably the 80% rules about what goods you're going to get. Anything else on ridership, employment locations?
Nope.
If not, we'll move on. Okay, new business, 2025 Whitestown Connector update. Back to Amanda.
That's me again. So I've been meeting with Sam weekly. She's our outreach rep who comes out here to Whitestown and connects with many of your employers. And so I love hearing, she is a go-getter, and I love hearing her updates every week. Just recently, she connected with Brooks, and she's been having tablings there. And it's not uncommon to go to an employer. So what they do is they'll set up a table in their break room at lunchtime usually. And so as employees come, the best case scenario is when the employers will let them know we're gonna be on site. They say, hey, stop by and see CERTA, get some free swag. So we take them things like pens or little bendy sticks and all kinds of fun things, sunglasses in the summer. And so she, it's not uncommon for us to go and only sign up, 2, maybe 5 employees. It just depends on how long we're there, how many people will come and engage with us. But she signed up 45 people at Brooks recently with a tabling. And so that, I was just like, whoa, Sam, that's amazing. So Brooks is very engaged. They're doing a great job educating their employees when we're coming on site, and looking forward to continuing, growing that relationship with them. But she's always looking for more, and we still go out to the Indigo Transit Center, making sure that, and as well as the library, to Indianapolis Public Library, just finding opportunities to connect in Marion County and letting people know, that this is available for work for them for higher paying jobs. In the month of March, we also went to the Indy Patchwork Community Resource Fair, the Neighbor Power Indy event, and the Damien Center Health and Wellness Fair. So always looking for Marion County events that we can share our services, and especially these workforce connectors to connect people to these jobs out here that you have. Also want to make sure you already received all the updates that you need for now on the connector, but as far as the ridership for March was at 848 compared to 785 in February. So that is looking good, and I'm very happy with Go Express. They are just very communicative. Anything that I need, they respond right away, and it's been a very welcomed experience from what we have had at times in the past with former providers. I meet with Christina, who's their manager on site, every other week. So we were gonna meet today, and I was like, you know what, let's meet after I talk to White Sound. That makes more sense, so that we would know exactly what's going on for next steps. So her and I are meeting tomorrow and talking about that, but they've just been, we weren't sure at first, how adaptive would they be to this new redesign? And they're like, yeah, we'll go drive it, we'll go do this. Like anything that we need, they've been able to help us. And again, from a rider perspective, it's been great customer service. If there's ever a call, I'm able to get a hold of them right away, and they say, oh, here, we can show you where the bus was at that time, So that is really great, to tell people where it is right away and look at that. So things are going great. We're excited to roll out the semi-redesign, and Philip and I are partnering on getting the public notice created and the public meeting set, and so we'll keep you updated with all of those details as well. Any questions?
No, and I'll just add a comment. So I kind of track Amanda's numbers kind of monthly, quarterly, yearly, and from what I've gathered since 2020, the first quarter of 25 is the highest ridership we've had, bar none. So, but yeah, very, very, very good numbers to start off the year. So.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there any other business to come before the board today?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of closing the meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.